They say music can cross oceans, melt borders, and speak to the parts of the human soul that language can't reach. But nobody inside that ancient cathedral in St. Petersburg expected that the song that would leave them trembling, the song that would make grown men cry in silence, the song that would echo through the cold stone walls like a warm embrace from heaven, would come from the Philippines. This is the story of how a Filipino Christmas song, simple, humble, pure, brought an entire Russian cathedral to tears. And to understand how it happened, we need to start with the moment the cathedral doors opened, and something unexpected stepped inside. It was the first week of December. Snow covered the streets like crushed pearls, and the cold air blew with a sharpness that made people pull their scarves tighter around their necks. Inside the Cathedral of the Resurrection in St. Petersburg, one of the most breathtaking Orthodox churches in the world, hundreds of people gathered for an international choral festival. It was a grand event, filled with choirs from Europe, Scandinavia, and the Middle East. People came expecting opera. They came expecting powerful baritone voices and dramatic classical hymns. They came expecting the deep, thunderous chants of Russian liturgical music. But no one, absolutely no one, expected what the small Filipino choir brought with them that night. They were not the biggest choir. They were not the most prestigious. Some of them were students. Some were overseas workers who sang during church gatherings. A few wore jackets borrowed from friends because they had never experienced a winter this freezing before. Their cheeks were red from the cold, their breaths fogged in front of them each time they exhaled. But their eyes, those eyes, were warm, soft, humble, quietly determined. When the announcer introduced them, representing the Philippines, the audience was respectful, but not exactly excited. Filipinos were known for being good singers, yes. But this was Russia, the land of classical giants, of Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff, and Orthodox choirs whose voices could shake the ground. The Filipino choir stepped forward. One of the older Russian judges whispered to another, "They look so young." Another judge simply nodded, uninterested. The choir conductor, a small Filipino woman with silver in her hair, raised her hands. And then, silence. A breathtaking, fragile silence. The kind of silence where the entire cathedral holds its breath. No one knew what song they would sing. No one expected anything particularly special, and then it began. A single voice, soft as a candle flame, singing the first line of a Filipino Christmas classic. Pasko na naman, o kay tuli ng araw. The moment that voice floated into the air, something inside the cathedral shifted. Russians understood none of the words. Not one. The language was foreign. The melody was simple. But the purity of the voice, the gentleness, the emotional honesty dripping from each syllable felt like a warm hand touching a cold heart. The first row of the audience straightened in their seats. Then the second voice came in, then the third, until the entire choir joined in harmony, smooth and seamless, like water flowing. There were no violins, no grand orchestra, no dramatic build-up, just human voices, layered in warmth, singing a Filipino Christmas song born from joy, hope, and the spirit of family. For a moment, the coldness of Russia disappeared. The cathedral's walls carried the sound upward, bouncing off mosaics of saints and angels centuries old. The song drifted through the arches like a memory people didn't know they had. Russians were used to Christmas songs that were solemn, heavy, sacred, but this song, this Filipino song, felt different. It felt like home, even to people who had never heard it before. The older Russian judge, who barely paid attention earlier, now found his fingers tapping lightly on his chest. His eyes softened. He leaned forward without realizing it. A woman in the audience who had lost her mother just months before felt something in her chest break open. She didn't understand why tears filled her eyes. She didn't understand a single lyric, but she felt the love in the voices. She felt the comfort. She felt embraced. Because that's the magic of Filipino Christmas music. It is not about perfection. It is not about showing off. It is about heart warmth, family faith. The Filipino way of singing always carries a story of joy despite struggle, of celebration despite hardship, of hope despite storms. The Russians had never heard anything like it. Then the second verse came, and this time the harmonies grew deeper, richer, layered like rays of morning sunlight peeking through clouds. Kailan lang tayo'y nagkasama, ngayon ay Pasko na naman. The lyrics spoke of time passing, of families reuniting, of wondering how fast the days go and how precious each gathering is. And suddenly, people began to cry. Not loud sobbing, but the quiet, trembling kind that escapes before you can stop it. Tears rolled down cheeks. Smiths, teachers, soldiers, elderly couples, even tourists who happened to wander into the cathedral. They felt it. Some tried to blink the tears away but couldn't. Others wiped their eyes discreetly with their gloves. One Russian grandmother pressed her hand over her heart and whispered, "Это красиво, так красиво." It's beautiful, so beautiful. Another man, a veteran who had seen war, closed his eyes and let the music wash over him like healing. The choir continued, unaware of the emotional storm their song was causing. For them, this wasn't a performance. This was offering a prayer, a gift from the Filipino heart to whoever's soul needed it. The final chorus came, and something miraculous happened. The sound grew, not louder, but brighter, stronger, more hopeful, like a choir of angels swelling above the winter sky. And then, softly, gently, the song ended. Silence, deep, overwhelming silence. No one moved. The entire cathedral was frozen, not from the cold, but from the magnitude of what they had just felt. For a long moment, no one clapped, not because they didn't want to, but because they couldn't. Their bodies refused to break the holy, sacred silence left behind by that song. The Filipino choir members looked at each other nervously, unsure if the audience liked it or not. Then finally, someone in the back stood, then another, then a third, and suddenly, the entire cathedral rose to their feet. Every single person inside that ancient Russian church gave the Filipino choir a full, trembling, heart-shaking standing ovation. It was not polite applause. It was roaring, thunderous, emotional. A wave of gratitude poured onto the stage as the applause echoed through the cathedral walls. Some judges wiped their eyes before raising their scorecards. One of the Russian judges approached the choir conductor afterward and said with a trembling voice, "I did not understand the words, but I felt every one of them. That is the highest form of music." The conductor smiled, tears in her eyes. "It is a song we grew up with," she said. "A song about togetherness, about love, about the joy of Christmas." The judge nodded. "You brought Christmas to Russia tonight." News spread quickly. Videos of the performance, recorded on shaky phones and posted on local social media, went viral within hours. People commented things like, "I don't know what they are singing, but it made me cry. Why does this sound like home even though it is not my language?" This choir is a gift, a blessing. Filipinos around the world shared the clip with pride. "Pinoy talent," they said. "Filipino heart." Others simply wrote, "This made me miss home." The cathedral's priest, a man known for his strict demeanor, said something no one expected. That song was not from the Philippines. That song was from heaven. The Filipinos simply delivered it. And perhaps that is true. Because Filipino Christmas music carries something beyond melody. It carries history. It carries joy forged through hardship. It carries laughter born from tight families living in small houses, but sharing big love. It carries faith so deep that even the strongest storms cannot wash it away. That night in Russia, they didn't just hear a Christmas song. They felt the Filipino soul. They felt the Filipino way of loving, warm, selfless, overflowing. They felt the Filipino way of celebrating Christmas, not just with lights or gifts or decorations, but with gratitude, hope, and unconditional love. Many Russians approached the choir after the performance. Some hugged them and cried into their coats. Others simply held their hands and whispered, "Spasibo," thank you. One elderly man, with tears still running down his face, said, "I have lived 72 winters. I thought I had felt every kind of cold. But tonight, your song gave me warmth I have not felt since I was a child." And what did the choir do? They smiled, genuinely. Humbly, they thanked everyone. They took pictures with strangers. They shared stories, laughter, even a few Tagalog phrases that Russians struggled to pronounce. Because Filipinos, even when standing on a stage thousands of miles from home, carry hospitality in their hearts. That night did not end with applause. It ended with connection. A connection between two cultures so different, yet united by one simple melody sung with sincerity. The choir returned to their hotel with their jackets still cold, but their hearts burning with joy. They had no idea they would trend across Russian media, gaining thousands of new fans who had never heard Filipino music before. And the best part? The next day, when the cathedral opened again, someone found a note placed at the foot of one of the altars. It said, "To the Filipino singers, your song healed something inside me. I cried, but it felt like peace. Thank you for reminding me of Christmas." Signed only with the name Nikolai. No one knew who he was. No one knew what he had been carrying in his heart. But somehow, that song reached him. And this is where the deeper truth comes in. Filipinos have a superpower. A superpower made of warmth, humility, and soul. A superpower hidden in every carol sung during December. A superpower baked into every Pasko na naman. A superpower woven through every Filipino voice that sings with heart, not ego. That night, in a Russian cathedral far from the tropics, that superpower revealed itself. A Filipino Christmas song, simple, gentle, filled with love, brought an entire cathedral to tears. Not because they understood the lyrics, not because they expected greatness, but because they felt something they had forgotten, the meaning of Christmas. The meaning of connection, the meaning of being human. And maybe that's the real miracle. Not the applause, not the viral video, not the standing ovation. The miracle is this. For a few minutes inside a cold Russian cathedral, the Philippines became the warmest place on earth. And every person who heard that song, whether Russian or Filipino, young or old, believer or not, felt something deeply human. Hope. Love, light. That is the power of Filipino music. That is the power of Filipino heart. And that is the story of how one Christmas song from the Philippines brought an entire Russian cathedral to tears. And as the final echoes of that Filipino Christmas song faded into the ancient walls of that Russian cathedral, one truth remained clear. No matter where we come from, no matter what language we speak, and no matter how cold the world around us may feel, there will always be moments, like this one, that remind us of our shared humanity. If stories like this move your heart, if you believe in the power of culture, kindness, and extraordinary moments that unite us, then don't let this be the end of our journey together. Subscribe to Holistic News Expo, where we uncover real stories of hope, compassion, and the beautiful ways humanity surprises us every single day. Because somewhere out there, another story is waiting to be told, and you don't want to miss it.